Captain Alina Reeves of the UES Dauntless gripped the edge of her command chair as the massive auxiliary vessel emerged from the swirling nebula, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. The Alliance-class battlecruiser under her command represented humanity's most advanced military technology, but compared to the alien ship, it felt like bringing a knife to a gunfight. 3 years since first contact with the Galactic Council, and humans were still the cosmic newcomers, fascinating oddities at best, potential threats at worst. "They're hailing us, Captain," Lieutenant Park announced, fingers dancing across his console. The auxiliary ambassador requests permission to conduct what he calls a standard biological and technological interface scan of our vessel. Reeves exchanged a knowing glance with her XO, Commander Vihan Sharma. Every military officer knew Admiral Harrison's standing order. No alien scans of human military vessels without prior diplomatic clearance. The reasons remained classified even to most captains. Inform the ambassador that scanning protocols require authorization through proper diplomatic channels, Reeves replied calmly. Offer our sensor data as a gesture of goodwill instead. She watched the main view screen as her message was delivered. The auxiliary ship hummed against the backdrop of stars, its biomechanical design unlike anything humans had created. Beautiful and alien all at once. Commander Sharma leaned closer to her chair. "Think they'll accept the compromise, Captain?" "Not a chance," Reeves murmured. "The auxiliary are meticulous record keepers. They've scanned every species they've encountered for the past 1,000 years. Our refusal makes them suspicious." The communications officer looked up from his station. "Captain, Ambassador Trelka is insistent. He says scanning is standard procedure for all first-time diplomatic encounters, and suggests our reluctance indicates hostile intent." Reeves sighed. The auxiliary diplomatic manual was thicker than Earth's collected religious texts, and just as dogmatic. Deviation from protocol was practically sacrilege to them. "Put him through," she ordered. The view screen shifted to show Ambassador Trelka. The auxiliary's translucent skin revealed the pulsing of vibrant circulatory fluid beneath, and his multifaceted eyes caught the light in prismatic displays. "Captain Reeves," the ambassador's voice came through the translator with perfect clarity. "Perhaps I failed to adequately explain the routine nature of our request. A technological interface scan is standard procedure established by the Galactic Council over 3,000 cycles ago. All member species comply." "Ambassador," Reeves replied diplomatically, "I understand the importance of your protocols. However, human neural interfaces function differently than those of other Council species. Admiral Harrison has explained these incompatibilities to your science directorate last quarter. Technical incompatibilities can be overcome." Trelka dismissed with a graceful gesture of his four-fingered hand. "Our scanning technology has adapted to over 600 distinct biological configurations." Tactical Officer Maya Rodriguez straightened suddenly at her station. "Captain, their scanning arrays are powering up. They're initiating a deep scan despite our refusal." Commander Sharma tensed. "Evasive maneuvers." "No," Reeves decided, her expression hardening. "Let them learn why we warned them." She pressed the yellow alert button on her chair. "All crew, this is the captain. Prepare for protocol shattered mirror. Neural dampeners authorized. I repeat, neural dampeners authorized." Throughout the ship, crew members reached for small devices attached to their uniforms, pressing them against their neural ports at the base of their skulls. The devices would shield them from the backwash effects of what was about to happen. "Captain, should we hail them again?" "Final warning," Communications Officer Chen suggested, already fitting his own dampener. "Too late," Rodriguez reported, eyes on her display. "Scan penetrating our outer hull now. Contact in 3, 2, 1. Reeves closed her eyes briefly as she activated her neural dampener. May whatever gods they believe in help them understand what they're about to experience. The Dauntless hummed as its integrated neural defense systems activated automatically in response to the unauthorized scan. There was no visible beam, No dramatic light show, just the silent deployment of humanity's most effective and least understood defense mechanism: the paradoxical nature of human consciousness itself. Senior scan operator Kelverin of the auxiliary diplomatic vessel *, Luminous Harmony *, prided himself on his 15 cycles of experience mapping unknown vessels. He had catalogued the neural-biological interfaces of over 300 species. Humans, fascinating but primitive in their technology, would be a straightforward addition to his database. Initiating Standard Protocol Gamma 9, he announced to his team of 6 scan specialists, "Remember, humans are mammalian bipeds with singular consciousness structures. Their neural interfaces should be rudimentary compared to the Syriacs configurations we mapped last cycle." His assistants nodded in acknowledgement, their translucent fingers gliding across biomechanical control surfaces. The scanning chamber hummed with energy as arrays powered up, bathing the room in soft blue light. "First layer penetration complete," announced Junior Operator Mirelle. "Hull composition matches our records. Detecting standard metallic alloys with carbon fiber reinforcement." Kelverin nodded approvingly. "As expected. Proceed to internal structure and begin neural mapping." The initial scan penetrated the outer hull of the human vessel easily enough. Kelverin smiled at the simplicity of their materials technology. Then his screens exploded with information. Impossible, contradictory information that multiplied exponentially with each passing second. "What in the name of the 7 moons?" he gasped as phantom readings of hundreds of identical human vessels appeared and disappeared across his displays, each one simultaneously present and absent, existing in multiple states that violated fundamental laws of physics. "Sir, I'm getting multiple readings," Mirelle shouted, her voice rising in panic. "The ship it's everywhere and nowhere at once." Another operator clutched his head. "The neural interfaces are generating feedback loops. They're reflecting our scans back, but altered somehow." The ship's AI crashed with a mournful tone. Emergency systems began failing in cascade. Kelverin clutched his head as sensory feedback through his neural implants overwhelmed his consciousness with paradoxical data no auxiliary brain could process. "Impossible readings," he whispered as pain lanced through his neural centers. "Each human mind aboard that vessel exists in quantum superposition, perceiving reality through fundamentally incompatible frameworks simultaneously." On the bridge of the Luminous Harmony *, Ambassador Trelka watched in horror as his scan team convulsed at their stations, neural interfaces overloading. The main view screen showed only static, while secondary systems reported multiple contradictory positions for the human vessel. "Shut it down," he screamed as the flagship's primary systems began failing. "Terminate all scans immediately." "We can't," his science officer replied, face contorted in pain as she fought the backflow of corrupted data. "The scan has triggered something in their neural interfaces. It's not an attack protocol. It's an automatic defense response. How can their technology possibly generate effects this powerful?" Trelka demanded. The science officer's multifaceted eyes widened in realization. "It's not their technology, Ambassador. It's their minds. Their vessel isn't attacking us. It's as if their reality doesn't conform to our understanding of existence. The neural architecture of their consciousness naturally generates perceptual paradoxes our systems cannot resolve." Across the scanning chamber, junior operators collapsed at their stations, overwhelmed by neurological feedback. Only Kelverin remained conscious, though blood now trickled from his sensory organs. "They warned us," he whispered, understanding flooding his pain-racked mind. "This is why they said no unauthorized scans. Not secrecy, not military advantage. Incompatibility." The Luminous Harmony drifted powerless, its main systems overwhelmed by contradictory data. On the secondary emergency display, the UES Dauntless appeared unchanged, maintaining its position with apparent calm. "Send emergency protocols," Ambassador Trelka ordered through the ship's backup communications. Inform the Council. Humans aren't weaponizing technology against us. They've weaponized perception itself. As darkness claimed his consciousness, Kelveran's final thought was both terrifying and profound. What kind of species evolved with minds that naturally defied the fundamental laws of perceptual reality? And how many other secrets did humanity's unique consciousness hide? Dr. Eliza Wong moved through her underground laboratory beneath the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by the most advanced neural interface technology on Earth. Holographic displays showed real-time data from the incident with the auxiliary vessel, and despite the seriousness of the diplomatic situation, she couldn't help feeling a surge of pride. Shattered Mirror performed beyond expectations. She explained to the delegation of stone-faced military officials and sweating politicians gathered around her central display. The neural architecture of human military vessels isn't just technology. It's an extension of human consciousness. Admiral Harrison stepped forward, the deep scar across his face catching the blue light of the displays. For those without the clearance level until now, perhaps you should explain exactly what happened out there. Wong nodded, gesturing to a brain scan rotating slowly in the center of the room. Human minds naturally process paradoxical information in ways alien neural structures cannot. We perceive reality through filters of expectation, memory, and cognitive shortcuts. Our brains constantly create and resolve logical impossibilities without conscious effort. She manipulated the display to show comparative scans of human and auxiliary neural patterns, where their thoughts flow in orderly, logical sequences. Ours leap between contradictory states simultaneously. We can hold opposing ideas in our minds without cognitive collapse. We understand metaphors, enjoy optical illusions, and comprehend fictional narratives without confusion between fantasy and reality. And you've integrated this uniquely human trait into our defense systems, Admiral Harrison added, his voice grave. Precisely, Wong confirmed, enlarging the display to show the neural interface web running throughout the Dauntless. When alien scanning technology attempts to map these systems, it encounters the fundamental paradoxes of human perception, amplified 1,000-fold. Their logical, linear neural processing cannot handle the quantum superpositions and cognitive blind spots that human brains navigate instinctively. And the result? Asked the pale-faced representative from the State Department, a woman who'd clearly been briefed only minutes before the meeting. Wong's expression darkened. For their technology, catastrophic system failures. For their crews, temporary neural trauma at minimum, potential permanent cognitive damage at worst. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, a general from the European Union Defense Force spoke up. Are you telling us our brains are naturally weaponized against alien consciousness? Not weaponized, Wong corrected carefully. Evolved differently. The Shattered Mirror Protocol doesn't amplify our neural patterns into an offensive capability. It simply allows their scanning technology to fully perceive the paradoxical nature of human neural architecture, rather than filtering it into something their systems can process. This is why, Admiral Harrison concluded grimly, we explicitly warned all Council species not to scan our vessels without prior notification. We never wanted to harm anyone, but we cannot change the fundamental architecture of human consciousness, nor its integration with our technology. A presidential science advisor raised his hand. Dr. Wong, has your team determined why human consciousness evolved these unique characteristics? No other species in the Galactic Council shares this trait. Wong hesitated, glancing at Admiral Harrison. He nodded almost imperceptibly. We have theories, she answered carefully. The most compelling is that Earth's unusual evolutionary history, with multiple extinction events and rapid climate shifts, created unique selective pressures. Our ancestors needed to adapt quickly to changing circumstances, developing cognitive flexibility beyond most species. What she didn't share, what only she and Admiral Harrison were cleared to know, was the other possibility. The possibility suggested by unusual markers in the human genome that didn't match Earth's evolutionary tree. Markers that hinted at intervention, at design, at purpose. Whatever the reason, she continued smoothly, this trait is now integrated into every human neural interface system. Until we find a way to make our technology compatible with alien scanning protocols, incidents like the one with the Xilari will continue to occur if warnings are ignored. As the officials filed out, Admiral Harrison remained behind. When they were alone, he spoke quietly. "You didn't tell them everything." "No," Wong admitted, calling up a classified file on her private display. "Because I don't think the cognitive paradoxes are accidents of evolution. I think they're defensive adaptations against something that hunts minds, something that might have found us at last." The Galactic Council chamber on Alphaxis Prime hummed with tension as representatives from 17 spacefaring civilizations demanded explanations. The massive crystalline dome above reflected the light of 3 suns, casting shifting shadows across the ancient chamber where galactic law had been established 10,000 years before humans discovered fire. Ambassador Dr. Natalia Chen stood alone at the central podium, her crimson diplomatic uniform stark against the sea of alien representatives. Despite being surrounded by species that could destroy Earth with a thought, her voice never wavered. "The incident aboard the UES Dauntless was regrettable but preventable," she stated, meeting the compound eyes of the Xilari delegation. "Humanity provided explicit warnings about incompatibility between our neural interfaces and your scanning technologies. These warnings were ignored. Warnings without explanation," bellowed the Xilari ambassador, his translucent skin flushing orange with anger. The neural bandages across his sensory organs were evidence of the damage his scanning team had suffered. "You concealed the true nature of your defensive capabilities." Chen's expression remained impassive. "We concealed nothing. Human neural architecture integrates with our technology in ways fundamentally different from Council species. This is not a weapon. It is simply how our consciousness interacts with reality." "Impossible," shouted a Vex representative, its tentacles writhing in agitation. "No biological consciousness can naturally generate quantum state paradoxes." "Our science team has prepared a detailed report," Chen replied, gesturing to the data packets being distributed to each delegation. "The report contains everything we understand about our unique neural structures, along with safety protocols for any necessary scanning procedures." The Council Arbiter, a being of pure energy contained within an ancient mechanical shell, raised a metallic hand for silence. "While the incident is troubling, evidence suggests the humans did indeed issue proper warnings which were disregarded. The question before us is not one of blame but of safety." Chen nodded gratefully. "Precisely, Arbiter. We propose establishing clear protocols for all interactions with human vessels. We have no desire to cause harm." As the chamber erupted in debate, a hunched figure observed from the shadows of the ancient Morrigan delegation's alcove. The eldest species in the Council, the Morrigan had remained silent for millennia on matters of galactic politics. Now, Elder Thox studied the human ambassador with ancient eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of 1,000 civilizations. "The humans are not lying." The elder's telepathic voice silenced the chamber instantly. All eyes turned to the shadowed alcove as Elder Thox stepped forward, bioluminescent patterns shifting across gray skin that appeared more like living stone than flesh. "We recognize what they are," the elder continued, 7 eyes blinking in sequence. "We have seen their kind before, though not for 8 million years. Their minds exist partially outside conventional reality, a trait we believed extinct in this galaxy." The chamber fell into stunned silence as the implications settled over the gathered delegates. The humans weren't merely strange aliens with unusual technology. They represented something far more significant, and potentially far more dangerous. The Arbiter's mechanical form hummed as it processed this revelation. "Elder Thox, you claim to recognize this neural architecture. Can you elaborate for the Council's benefit?" The ancient Morrigan moved closer to the central platform, each slow step deliberate. There were others, long ago, with minds like theirs. The paradox-minded, we called them. They perceived reality through multiple contradictory frameworks simultaneously. And what became of these? Paradox-minded? Asked the Xilari ambassador, his anger now tempered with unease. Elder Thox's 7 eyes fixed on him with ancient sorrow. They were hunted to extinction by entities that evolved to feed on neural patterns, entities that could not perceive paradoxical consciousness, and thus could not find them until it was too late. Hunted? Chen asked, her diplomatic composure slipping for the first time. By what? By the very reason, Elder Thox replied, that your species evolved such extraordinary neural defenses in the first place, by predators that consume consciousness itself, predators that have been dormant for millions of years, but will not remain so once they sense your emergence. As shocked murmurs filled the chamber, Chen's communicator vibrated with an urgent message from Earth. Unknown vessel DTTCTED-AT Solar Boeing Daerot. Ancient design. Broadcasting in AL human languages. We recognize what you are. The hunters wail too. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Wee led his team through the cavernous interior of the Morrigan vessel. The ancient ship had appeared at the edge of Sol system without triggering a single alarm, broadcasting a cryptic message in every human language simultaneously. We recognize what you are. The hunters will too. The boarding party moved cautiously through corridors that seemed to shift and breathe. Nothing about the vessel conformed to conventional engineering principles. Spaces appeared larger inside than physically possible, and gravity shifted subtly with each step. This isn't a ship, muttered Chief Science Officer Lahiri, her neural interface struggling to process the readings. It's more like a library. Wei nodded, checking the holographic display projected from his wrist unit. Power signatures are minimal. No weapons systems active. And these readings suggest it's been traveling for thousands of years. Millions, corrected a voice from ahead. The team raised their weapons instinctively, but Wei signaled them to stand down as a figure emerged from the shadows. Elder Thox moved with deliberate grace, bioluminescent patterns rippling across stone-like skin. Your species wasn't even bipedal when this vessel began its journey, the Morrigan explained. It has waited at the edge of your system, dormant, for the signal that humans had achieved neural maturity. And that signal was our encounter with the Xilari, Wei realized. Precisely. The paradox feedback your ship generated was unmistakable. Only paradox-minded species produce such effects. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with artifacts and preserved specimens from thousands of species spanning billions of years of galactic history. At its center stood a holographic display showing what appeared to be human DNA, but with structures and sequences no Earth scientist had ever documented. Those sections don't exist in our genome, Lahiri whispered, fascinated and disturbed. Not yet, Elder Thox replied, 7 eyes blinking in sequence. But they will, if you survive what comes next. The ancient Morrigan moved to a crystalline pedestal and activated a display that filled the chamber with 3-dimensional star maps spanning multiple galaxies. Red markers appeared throughout, thousands of them. 8 million years ago, another species evolved with consciousness architecture similar to yours. Elder Thox explained, voice resonating directly in their minds. They called themselves the Aleph. Like humans, their perception created natural shields against certain scanning technologies. Like humans, they integrated this trait into their vessels. The display shifted to show a vibrant civilization spreading across spiral arms of a distant galaxy. Then, abruptly, the red markers converged, and the civilization vanished. The hunters found them despite their perceptual shields. Wei realized, a cold dread settling in his stomach. Yes, the Elder confirmed. And now they have detected your emergence. The incident with the Xilari scan did not reveal you, but the ripples of your expanding consciousness have been sensed. The hunters are coming. Lahiri stepped closer to the DNA display. These dormant sequences in our genome, they're not random, are they? No, Fox admitted. After the Aleph fell, we preserved what remained of their genetic patterns. We seeded promising worlds with modified genetic material, hoping that natural evolution might one day recreate the paradox mind trait. You engineered us? Wei asked, struggling with the implications. Not engineered. Guided. The potential was already present in your ancestors. We merely ensured it wasn't lost through evolutionary chance. The same way you might preserve an endangered species. Wei's communicator chimed with an urgent signal from Earth Command. His face darkened as he read the message. 3 outposts on the outer rim have gone silent, he reported. No distress signals. No signs of conventional attack. Just silence. Elder Fox's bioluminescent patterns dimmed. It has begun sooner than we feared. The hunters have arrived in your reality. Who, or what, are these hunters? We demanded. They evolved to feed on neural networks that achieve certain thresholds of complexity. Fox explained, ancient sorrow evident in every word. For billions of years, they have consumed every species that developed beyond specific parameters of consciousness, except those few who could hide their minds behind cognitive paradoxes. Like humans, Wei said, understanding dawning. Yes, what makes your military vessels impossible to scan is what has kept you hidden until now. But they have evolved too. They are coming. And this time, natural shields will not be enough. Captain Reeves, now Fleet Admiral Reeves, stood before the holographic display in Earth Defense Command's war room as reports flooded in from across the frontier. 3 colony worlds had gone silent simultaneously, their quantum communications networks collapsing without warning. The Ganymede mining outpost, the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri b, the nascent settlement on Kepler 442 bits, all gone dark within the same 20-minute window. Show me the sensor data from Proxima Colony's final transmission, she ordered, her voice steady despite the churning fear in her gut. The display shifted to show massive shadow-like entities materializing in orbit around the human settlement. Unlike anything in humanity's catalog of known species, they appeared as voids against the starfield, not merely dark, but absences of reality itself. Conventional weapons fire passed through them harmlessly, while the Centaurian support vessels attempting to assist suffered catastrophic systems failures upon approach. The Centaurian ships lost all power within seconds of proximity, reported Strategic Operations Officer Commander Rodriguez. But our military vessel, the UES Intrepid, maintained functioning systems even in direct contact. The paradox-generating neural interfaces, Dr. Wong stated, adjusting her glasses as she analyzed the data, her once black hair now streaked with premature gray after 3 sleepless weeks. They're protecting our ships the same way they disrupt alien scans. Admiral Harrison, now heading Earth's Joint Defense Council, studied the flickering images with grim determination. These entities conform to Elder Fox's description of the hunters. They exist partially in dimensions our instruments can barely detect, Wong explained, manipulating the display to highlight energy readings from the shadow entities. Conventional physics doesn't apply to them. They're consciousness predators. They evolved to feed on specific patterns of neural complexity. And they've hunted species like us before, Harrison said grimly. Many times, confirmed Elder Fox from his position beside the human leaders. The ancient Morgan had been granted emergency advisory status to Earth's Defense Council. The paradoxes your minds generate naturally kept you hidden longer than most. But now they've found you, and they won't stop until they've consumed every human consciousness. Reeves studied the tactical display, mind racing through possibilities. But those same paradoxes make our ships resistant to their influence. The Intrepid survived direct contact when the Centaurian vessels didn't. Yes, Fox acknowledged. Your neural architecture provides limited protection, but the hunters will adapt. They always do. Wong stepped forward suddenly, eyes wide with realization. What if we could amplify the effect? Turn our defensive capability into something offensive. Elaborate, Reeves prompted. The Shattered Mirror Protocol creates feedback loops in scanning technology by exposing it to the paradoxical nature of human consciousness, Wang explained rapidly. But it's passive. It only activates when we're scanned. What if we actively projected those paradoxes outward? We could broadcast the paradox effect across the entire neural spectrum, she continued, fingers flying across her datapad. Human minds naturally create cognitive blind spots the hunters can't perceive. If we can amplify that effect sufficiently, we become not just hidden, Reeves finished, determination hardening her features, but actively toxic to their perception. Elder Thox's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what might have been hope. It has never been attempted. But if any species could succeed, it would be yours. Harrison turned to Reeves. What do you need to make this happen? The UES Dauntless, she replied without hesitation. It has the most advanced neural interface system in the fleet. And volunteers, a crew willing to risk neural connection on a level we've never attempted before. The dormant sections of your DNA we showed Commander Wei, Fox added. They contain the potential for even greater paradox generation. Under sufficient neural stress, these sequences may activate. You're saying this encounter will change us fundamentally, Reeves realized. If you succeed, humanity will never be the same, Fox confirmed. The very trait that makes other species avoid scanning your vessels will become your defining characteristic as a species. Reeves nodded decisively. Prepare the Dauntless for immediate deployment. We're going to show these hunters why scanning human vessels is the last mistake a predator ever makes. Captain Reeves, now Fleet Admiral Reeves, stood before the holographic display in Earth Defense Command's war room as reports flooded in from across the frontier. 3 colony worlds had gone silent simultaneously, their quantum communications networks collapsing without warning. The Ganymede mining outpost, the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri V, the nascent settlement on Kepler 442 bits, all gone dark within the same 20-minute window. Show me the sensor data from Proxima Colony's final transmission, she ordered, her voice steady despite the churning fear in her gut. The display shifted to show massive shadow-like entities materializing in orbit around the human settlement. Unlike anything in humanity's catalog of known species, they appeared as voids against the starfield, not merely dark, but absences of reality itself. Conventional weapons fire passed through them harmlessly, while the Centaurian support vessels attempting to assist suffered catastrophic systems failures upon approach. The Centaurian ships lost all power within seconds of proximity, reported Strategic Operations Officer Commander Rodriguez. But our military vessel, the UES Intrepid, maintained functioning systems even in direct contact. The paradox-generating neural interfaces, Dr. Wang stated, adjusting her glasses as she analyzed the data. Her once black hair now streaked with premature gray after 3 sleepless weeks. They're protecting our ships the same way they disrupt alien scans. Admiral Harrison, now heading Earth's Joint Defense Council, studied the flickering images with grim determination. These entities conform to Elder Thox's description of the hunters. They exist partially in dimensions our instruments can barely detect, Wang explained, manipulating the display to highlight energy readings from the shadow entities. Conventional physics doesn't apply to them. They're consciousness predators. They evolved to feed on specific patterns of neural complexity. And they've hunted species like us before, Harrison said grimly. Many times, confirmed Elder Thox from his position beside the human leaders. The ancient Morrigan had been granted emergency advisory status to Earth's Defense Council. The paradoxes your minds generate naturally kept you hidden longer than most. But now they've found you. And they won't stop until they've consumed every human consciousness. Reeves studied the tactical display, mind racing through possibilities. But those same paradoxes make our ships resistant to their influence. The Intrepid survived direct contact when the Centaurian vessels didn't. Yes, Fox acknowledged. Your neural architecture provides limited protection, but the hunters will adapt. They always do. Wang stepped forward suddenly, eyes wide with realization. What if we could amplify the effect? Turn our defensive capability into something offensive. Elaborate, Reeves prompted. The Shattered Mirror Protocol creates feedback loops in scanning technology by exposing it to the paradoxical nature of human consciousness, Wang explained rapidly. But it's passive. It only activates when we're scanned. What if we actively projected those paradoxes outward? We could broadcast the paradox effect across the entire neural spectrum, she continued, fingers flying across her datapad. Human minds naturally create cognitive blind spots the hunters can't perceive. If we can amplify that effect sufficiently, we become not just hidden, Reeves finished, determination hardening her features, but actively toxic to their perception. Elder Thox's bioluminescent patterns pulsed with what might have been hope. It has never been attempted, but if any species could succeed, it would be yours. Harrison turned to Reeves. What do you need to make this happen? The UES Dauntless, she replied without hesitation. It has the most advanced neural interface system in the fleet. And volunteers, a crew willing to risk neural connection on a level we've never attempted before. The dormant sections of your DNA we showed Commander Wei, Fox added. They contain the potential for even greater paradox generation. Under sufficient neural stress, these sequences may activate. You're saying this encounter will change us fundamentally, Reeves realized. If you succeed, humanity will never be the same, Fox confirmed. The very trait that makes other species avoid scanning your vessels will become your defining characteristic as a species. Reeves nodded decisively. Prepare the Dauntless for immediate deployment. We're going to show these hunters why scanning human vessels is the last mistake a predator ever makes. Dr. Wang moved through the retrofitted neural interface chamber aboard the UES Dauntless, making final adjustments to the equipment that would either save humanity or fail catastrophically. 100 volunteers, the ship's crew, lay in interface pods, their minds about to be linked in ways never before attempted. The hunters perceive reality through quantum-entangled consciousness, she explained to Admiral Reeves as technicians made final preparations. They're essentially living quantum computers that evolved to detect, track, and consume specific patterns of neural activity. And we're going to give them neural indigestion, Reeves replied, strapping herself into the captain's interface pod. As the ship's commander, she would serve as the focal point for the experimental defense system, a position with the highest risk of permanent neural damage. More than indigestion, Wang corrected, checking Reeves' neural connections. Based on the Morrigan data, we believe humans evolved these cognitive paradoxes specifically as a defense against consciousness predators like the hunters. Not a conscious adaptation, but a survival trait that emerged over millions of years. The ship shuddered as it approached the shadow entities surrounding the besieged colony on Europa. Outside the reinforced viewports, the creatures appeared as shifting voids against the starfield, not merely dark, but absences of reality itself. The dormant DNA sequences the Morrigan showed us, Wang continued, voice tight with controlled fear and excitement. They're not future evolution. They're activation keys. Under sufficient neural stress, these sequences activate, enhancing our natural paradox generation exponentially. You're saying this encounter is going to change us fundamentally, Reeves realized, suddenly understanding the Morrigan's cryptic warnings. We're about to evolve in response to the threat. Wang nodded grimly. If we survive, humanity will never be the same. The very trait that makes other species avoid scanning our vessels will become our defining characteristic as a species. Last chance to back out, Doctor, Reeves offered with a tight smile. And missed the chance to witness breakthrough human evolution. Not a chance. Admiral. Wang finished her adjustments and moved toward her own interface pod. Systems check complete. Neural network integrity at optimal levels. Ready when you are. All crew, prepare for neural synchronization, Reeves announced over the shipwide comm. Remember your training. Don't fight the paradoxes, embrace them. Let your mind hold contradictory states simultaneously. As the neural interface activated, Reeves felt her consciousness expanding beyond the confines of her physical form. Around her, the minds of her crew linked in a complex lattice of perception and paradox. It wasn't telepathy as fiction had imagined it, not a sharing of words or images, but something more fundamental, a union of cognitive frameworks, each unique yet harmonized. Together, they reached outward toward the waiting hunters, offering themselves as bait while simultaneously becoming something no hunter had encountered before, a unified field of weaponized cognitive dissonance. The first hunter that tried to feed on their connected consciousness recoiled violently. The second approached more cautiously, prodding the edges of their mental shield. The third unleashed the full force of its feeding process and shattered like glass as the paradoxes inherent in human perception reflected back upon it. Through their connected consciousness, the crew of the Dauntless felt the dormant DNA sequences activating, enhancing their natural abilities. Where before they had merely reflected paradoxes passively, now they actively generated new ones, impossible perceptual frameworks that existed simultaneously in mutual contradiction. Reeves directed their unified perception outward in a pulse of concentrated cognitive dissonance that expanded in all directions at faster than light speeds. Through the neural network, she felt her crew's minds evolving in real time, ancestral genes awakening after millions of years of dormancy. Across the solar system, the hunters began to disintegrate, unable to maintain their coherence in the face of perceptual mathematics their consciousness couldn't resolve. They had evolved to feed on minds that perceived reality in logical, consistent ways. The human capacity for embracing contradiction, for simultaneously holding multiple conflicting truths, became a weapon more devastating than any physical technology. In the neural interface chamber, Wang watched in awe as subtle changes manifested in the crew. Their eyes developed an almost imperceptible luminescence. Neural scans showed new pathways forming, new potentials awakening. "It's working," she whispered. "They're evolving."